Hello. Okay, I am still getting used to the kind of getting the stream started on time and getting working. I'm just doing another one without telling anyone in advance, just trying to work this out to get us started. So first of all, I want to say a huge thank you to what's his username? So Calibo1337. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce that, but it's Tim Van Monero on Twitch. Was really kind and gave me some feedback on Reddit about things that were working and not working on the streams that I'd been doing up until now. And so that is why you can hear some nice music playing. And he did say that he doesn't listen to the music while he's streaming, but I thought it was a bit mean to subject people to music that I don't have to listen to. So it is playing in these headphones. And I went through YouTube's like royalty-free library, and there's stuff that you can play, you don't have to pay for, and it's bland. Like, it's really bland. So I've tried my best to pick stuff that's at least listenable. This one's kind of like, it's got like a funky kind of vibe to it. But I think I've managed to work it out so that I know how I can turn it off in my ears and leave it playing. I'd actually be interested. I actually wasn't too fussed on that for streamers because I like playing my own music, but if it's quiet enough, I figure it doesn't really matter too much. So let me know if it's too loud, too quiet, too annoying, too whatever. And we'll kind of figure this out. So if we never hear this music again, it'll be because the feedback was overwhelmingly poor. So I'm going to post a link to his Twitch stream in I'm just getting some feedback over this. It's higher than recommended user stream bitrate 4500. Okay, so I'm literally doing this in real time. I'm going to turn the stream settings down because it's saying they are too high. Okay, so hopefully that YouTube will like that better. Everyone was like, turn the bitrate up, and it's saying turn them down. So we're going to put a link to Tim's channel. He's working on Ruby on Rails on Twitch, and he's doing cryptocurrency, Bitcoin exchange work. So I watched some of his videos, and there's some of him learning Vue.js and like getting involved with that kind of stuff over there. And so I'm going to try and spend a bit of time watching more of what he's doing and getting into that. But I thought, just because I haven't pre-announced anything and I just want to kind of get back into working out how this works, we could do more of just fixing some of these rollbar issues. So we close these ones down. I'm going to turn that music down just a touch. Hopefully it can just sit there in the background if I have to stay quietly. So hopefully this is viewable on the screen, the browser. And if I swap over, what I've done is ramped up some of the font sizes. And what I've found is that they are more viewable, but it really does seem to depend on the screen. If you're on a Retina display, especially, so if you've got a Retina MacBook Pro or you're on a phone or an iPad, then the quality, like the text is pretty readable on most things. And then as I moved, obviously as the window got smaller, it became less viewable. So I've tried my best to fit as much on here as possible. So hopefully you can read this a little easier. This is an example of the font size, and it doesn't look that big on those videos, but it is massive on my screen. You can't fit too much on, but we will get through it. Okay, so I haven't had a chance to put together a regular kind of preamble. So basically we are working on a Rails app that is in production, and these videos are not specifically tutorials, and I'm not going to give a huge amount of context to what we're doing, but hopefully you can kind of see the code that I work on. And if you're interested, what I'm going to try and do is go back over the 3 I've done this week, and in each of the descriptions of the videos, just write up the notes of what kind of some of either the concepts or parts of Rails that got looked at, or maybe it's not useful, or what got debugged. And then when people are flicking through in the future, they can kind of say, oh, that was useful. And then after today, I actually have, rather than just going through rollbar stuff, which is just little exceptions, I'm actually working on some actual moving some features forward and actual building some things. So that will be way more useful for people, I think. All right, so let's take a look. So this one, I think I know what is causing this. So we actually haven't had, this came via a user report. So this one actually did affect a real user. And it's to do with, user can access file at level. It's to do with Pundit, which is what we were working on in the previous Rollbar issue of having, I'm going to turn that off in my ears because it's really hard to talk and hear that music. So I really am, if you listen to this and you hate hearing it in your side, I will turn that off, but I'm just going to turn it off here. Okay, so there we go. I think that should now just be playing to you and not me. Okay, cool. So the Pundit rule was something that we looked at in the last video, and this time we are gonna experience, I think, the same problem. So you can tell that because we're in app policies and the file asset policy, and user can access file accessible. I think that must be coming from the controller. And it's interesting that Rollbar is showing app. I'm guessing they prefix the error with app anyway. I wonder if that's in the Rollbar settings. We can turn that off. So I'm trying to stay close to the mic because I'm aware that I got a little bit too far away, and it's already echoing in here because this is the new office. And you can see my plant, my girlfriend is keeping alive in the background. All right, so let's load this up so we can actually see what's going on. I don't need that last part there. Okay. Oh wow, this font is so big. I'm hoping that I can drop it down one size, maybe. Let's see how readable it is. Okay, so user can access file accessible. So file assets, before active storage came out, I had already kind of started to work on that model of, instead of having, we use paperclip for our file attachments, basically, so images, kind of user uploads to S3. And when I first started using paperclip, I would attach the each individual attachment to the model as kind of it tells you to do. And that wasn't working for me, so I started moving to this idea of having a model called a file asset. I think in active storage, there, I can't remember what they're called there, but it's basically the same thing. And then you then have associations to that model, to that object, rather than try and so rather than having one model that has 3 attachment fields, you basically just store all of your assets as one type of model, and then associate the kind of 3 fields with those 3 models. I'm not describing that very well, but basically file asset is my version of active storage before it came out, just because I think whenever you've done a bunch of multiple models depending on loads of files, user uploads, you all tend to end up at the same thing, which is like, why are we doing the same thing over and over again? And it gets really fiddly. So ours is, I can't remember, on active storage, I can't remember what they're called. They are called has one attached. So what's the actual, is there like a model that you generate that is, or is it just built into Rails that it's just like, if you wanted to view a list of things that had been uploaded through active storage, what would you list? Or is that not how that works? I haven't used active storage, so my only knowledge of it is that they're all like, there's one table full of kind of all the information you need. So when you go to set it up, so install active storage or enable or whatever. Okay, so when you run this migration, what are you creating? DB migrate, once executed. Oh, okay, they're called attachments. So they're called active storage attachments. So instead of active storage attachments and active storage blobs, we have file assets. Same theory, I think. By the attachment join models. Yeah, I wasn't smart enough to do 2 of them because I didn't think of that. So let's fire up a server. And so this is file asset policy create user connects as file assetable. So basically we're not actually checking that when the user is creating a new file asset, we're not actually checking the asset itself, we're checking the association of it, which we call the file assetable, and then we have a case here, and I'm going to guess from this that because we are in case because we're in a case clause in Ruby and we've got to the bottom and then we've got an exception, I'm just assuming that we haven't caught the case. So and everything on here, the fact that we are in undefined method user for campaign, so it's obviously saying file assetable.user equals, so it's pretty obvious that that should be a campaign, and it's saying, hey, what's the user here? And it doesn't have campaign doesn't have a user. So file assetable. Okay, so what does a campaign have? So we've got the server running in the background, which means we should, oh hang on, let me open this in another tab in case there's anything on here. So just want to check there's no personal data or anything in the development environment I'm about to show. So they are creating an asset. That means they're an admin user. So that means I need to be an admin user too. So I'm also aware that when I'm typing or knocking the mic, you might be able to hear that. So I do apologize in that short term. My new desk will be arriving next week, so I'll get that fixed. Okay, I think I probably could have put all of this on the screen, but I don't want to run the risk. And I can hear my chair squeaking as well. These are things you don't notice when you're just when it's just you in the room and you've got your headphones blaring. So organizations. Let's do this because this is an example one. So let's do this. So this is the control panel area. So this is all my development environment. So it's all blank, and we need to enable campaigns for this organization. These are all just domain objects for what we do. So, okay, so campaigns. This is just a toggle. So do campaign. I'm not talking about any of the context of what these things are. It doesn't matter for the purpose of debugging this thing, because in the settings of the campaign, we can change the branding, which is images. So that's file assets, and I am going to assume that this is how we get this error. Ooh, I'm also just going to pull that off the screen in case there's anything. I'm just going to make a new. Perfect. Okay, so just put that on there. So I'm just going to try and upload a photo of some balloons, and what we should get in our server, I'm guessing. Oh, the server must be running. That has failed. Oh, okay. And that looks like it has failed as well. Okay, so this is annoying. This is one of the things I find using VS Code over using terminal to run the server. I'd be interested if anyone else has this issue, where if you have a server running, a Ruby server, like a Rails server or something like that, and then VS Code has to restart for any reason, your server stays running and you can't get to it. You have to kill the process. So if I open up Activity Monitor, I should have a Ruby, so I can actually show this on the screen. So if I have, yeah, so these are running. So if I exit my console session, and this never started, so that's not real. Then I've still got these two here, so you can do this in the terminal as well. I'm just going to show you. So those are the servers that were running. So now I can go back, because you can see it says already in use. So it means there's already a server running, but you've lost the terminal window. So maybe you can get it back, I don't know. But it's annoying. So let's get the server back up and running, which is here. So that's failed. So if I refresh, it should think there isn't one there. I'm still trying to process it. Yeah, like it's obviously failing. It can't get to it. So I think if we do choose photo again, got a picture of some balloons, upload that, we should then get the error this time. So that's the oh, it's actually putting in a background job. That's why it's not doing it. By default, my Rails server doesn't turn on the worker, so I use Foreman for that. However, I don't know if it will fail loudly. Which in these go past? Is that? Oh, that has worked. Okay. Okay, so that's the cover photo. Maybe it's not a cover. You can upload other stuff to a campaign. Let's go see what else we can break. So, occurrences, v1. What path were we on? Branding settings edit. Branding settings edit. Oh, am I an admin? Aha. So that's always a problem when you're checking something to do with authentication, that you are always a special user. So I don't want to be me in this case. I am going to just bump another user that I have access to and give them permission to access this organization. So let's, what we're in, Digital Skills for Good Causes is the name of the organization. So we're going to, well, let's make a new user. Oh, geez, well, that's here. I've got Joe Smith from the other day, so I'm just on the other screen, so just bear with me just because it's got user data on it. I'm just going to sign back in as an admin really briefly, and we'll come back to the other screen. I'm going to go to my list of users. What I do have is a bunch of seed data. So when I do the new features, I'll make sure we're not working with real user data, so I don't have to keep worrying about what's on the screen and what's not. We have a full suite of like seeds and scenarios and stuff like that. So we can edit this user. We can bump up their access to the organization. And it is Digital Skills for Good Causes. And I need their email address because I'm going to log in as them. So I'm just going to log in. This is the dummy user from the other day. And they can't get to that, so it's not real. This one. So now it should fail. So if we now go to manage this campaign and we try and upload the balloons again, now we should get an error, we hope. No method error, undefined method for campaign, which is the error here. Undefined method user for campaign. Perfect. Okay, so we basically just need to, I'm going to fix this really quickly, but we actually want to test to make sure that we actually catch this. Now, the other thing we want to know is how do we actually vet a campaign? How do we check that you can? Oh, it's the same as doing an event. So we need to do that and that. I'll explain what these do in a second. So this should now work, and I'm going to come back and explain why. Pardon me. So back to our server, process the file, and there we go. Okay, right, so what's actually happening here? The case file is looking for the thing that we are associating the file with, and this is happening in Pundit, so it's in that controller action when we try and save the details of the file. We can upload things to a charity event, we can upload things to a charity, or we can upload things to a campaign. And there are other ones, but they were before the transition to Pundit. So when you're doing a campaign, the only people that can upload things to a campaign are people from the organization that running it. So you have access to this organization, Digital Skills for Good Causes, and you need to be a user that belongs to that organization or to the charity. Charity and organization are synonyms in this case. So a Juno user, we use kind of abstract naming for our namespaces. So we have just user has a standard just in the global namespace. It's just a user. And then Juno users are, they have access to this control panel. So they basically can work directly with charities and organizations. And then Hero users are like admins at our end. So there's basically 3 levels: standard users, Juno users, and Hero users. They are names of all the namespaces in Echoleftar, Greek and Roman gods and goddesses, based on what they do. So I think Juno is charity, I think, and Hero, I don't know, god of admin. I don't know, whatever the admin system level was. And so we return false. So if it is a campaign, don't let the user upload something unless they are an organization user. We then want to check that the organization they have access to is the one that the campaign belongs to. So the campaign in this case is the file accessible. And so that is that check there. So those are the only 2 things we care about. So can you access this level of auth, and can you access this level of auth for this organization? Or charity, same thing. So we don't have, I think, let's check what we, oh my, this font size is huge. Let's get rid of that server temporarily. Okay, so create with valid params, as the user that owns the file accessible should try to process the image. I don't really want to write a test for every type of file accessible because I've just missed them, which is what has happened here in this case. Most of them must fall under the else because it's usually the user that owns a thing. So if it's like a fundraising page or something like that, it's the user that's associated with it that can or cannot upload it. So maybe it could, because these are, I mean, in reality, that's the bulk of the use cases. These ones are just the kind of other cases. Oh, hello. Someone's writing a chat. Sorry, I have so many screens in front of me, I missed it. Asjan, hey man, how's it going? So I don't know how to find out when you wrote that. Kind of still getting used to these tools. Does it give you a timestamp? Oh, I don't know how long ago you wrote that. I'm really sorry. Let me try and toggle timestamps. Here we go. 8:08. Oh, that was a little while ago. Sorry, man. Oh, not doing great at this whole streaming thing. Okay, so as the user that owns the file asset, it should try to process the image. I don't really want to. I just want to get this fixed up. So where is the file assetable defined? Ah, here. Okay, so if I what do I actually expect to happen here? I mean, it raised an exception, but that's because I didn't write like it's an exception. It should have raised an exception. It broke. So if we make that a campaign, what traits does a campaign have? Already has a cherry on it, okay. So we don't even need that. So let's bring this over. Let's kill that and bring the server back. So we can run our tests while we're working. So what do we expect? So focus is a tag that I have set up in RSpec. If RSpec finds any tests tagged with focus, it will only run those tests. Okay, so that has still brought back the same error, but somewhere. Oh, I see. So that's actually in the test itself. It doesn't like that. So user is the file acceptable. Okay. So in this case, I don't really know what I'm trying to test here, though. Like, I think one of the issues is that I'm trying to have one Pundit file that knows or cares about multiple types, and I feel like maybe it shouldn't. I feel like maybe maybe it should just, when we call the policy from the controller to see if it can create this file asset, or the user is allowed to create the file asset, maybe we should just pass in the oh, that's actually a better idea. Maybe we should just pass in the type of file acceptable into the policy. So where does this actually happen? File assets controller, API file assets controller. Authorize file asset create. So I'm not going to do it now, but that might actually be the solution that I want to implement here. So instead of authorize file asset create, it could be something more like authorize. Does this know what file acceptable is? How do we work out what file settable is. It's file asset, just file assetable. Okay, so it could be something like that. I actually have a real problem with Pundit. Having model names. So what this does, when you try and authorize in Pundit and you pass it an array, it namespaces the policies, which you can see. Actually, file asset would be at the root, but if you look, for example, at like some of the other policies we were looking at the other day, you can see they are namespaced like that. And so the way that that happens in Pundit is just by passing in an array, and it takes the array, and there's like a method in Pundit that helps it. It's like, what am I trying to auth? Sorry, how do I find my policy? And it just does a bunch of clever stuff to try and work that out. So when the root namespace, so when I just lost that policy file. When campaign policy for there, if you don't put the word policy on the end and it says campaign, I also namespace some of my models, and Rails gets super confused because your policy namespace gets mixed up in the namespace for controllers and for models. I can't remember the exact issue. So I have a tendency to write the policy at the end of the root namespace. I'm hoping that makes some sense, but it would look like this. So rather than, I've just lost wherever it's doing that in the controller. So I would do something, so just interpolate the, name of the file as settable, so campaign, charity event. That would become the root namespace of the policy, and then pass in the file asset, check that the user owns whatever they need to own, and that would give me a Pundit file, Pundit policy per file asset type. Now, would that make my test any different? I've just said all of that. That was like 5 minutes. Would that actually make my life any better when it comes to this test? What am I doing? Getting this passing as a regression? Oh my god, that's only it's moving the window over, it's only 77 characters across. Okay, I have to get used to that. Does that now pass? Yes. I don't really know if that test is doing me any good. I mean, it's a regression against me removing those lines. So now if I delete those and save, that should now fail. Okay, but it won't catch me passing another type of file that's settable in and missing it. Okay, that's gonna have to be enough for today, just because I just wanted to get my new setup tested, and we got that. Whoops, that's a comma, not a full stop. So we're gonna run our tests, and don't need any of that stuff. Don't think I saved any of that. Nope. So that fixes the error that the user was seeing. So let's get that written up wherever source tree has gone. So I went to an event last night for Hacktoberfest. I went to this is near me, and I went to this event. Oh, I don't know how you see past events. That one. So this is really interesting. So the source tree just reminded me. Hacktoberfest is running at the moment. If you're into Rails, then Hacktoberfest is a great way to get into your first pull requests, and you get a t-shirt. And so this was an event that was running locally to help people get into it, and we showed people how to make their first pull requests and do things like that. And we were discussing the importance of writing good commit messages and also doing your own code review. So for example, I'm going to make a branch right now, pull it onto it. So if I go to the history tab, do branch, file, fix, file, asset, permission, issue. And one of the reasons that I do them is I actually then do read the code in GitHub before merging it, and it goes up as a pull request anyway. So it's like a weird little ritual, but it does help because I think looking at the code in your editor is a bit different from looking at it in GitHub. So let's write this up. Add campaign to this was causing an error for Juno users when trying to campaigns and caught it in testing. The test added hit is a regression test, but doesn't protect us from making this mistake again when we add file assets to new types. Didn't have time to look. It's like a little mini apology to future developer into it at the moment. So that's there, and there's a test there for it. Okay, so we can commit that. That will go up, and our tests are running in the background, so they should come back as green. And then, as we were showing people yesterday, if we go over to here, we should get our pull request that we can make. Let's create a pull request. And so one of the reasons we do that is so that you can check your own code in a different environment from the one that you're used to. There's our testable pass there. And one of the other reasons is that we have a couple of other checks that run. So Codacy runs just to look for any style issues with the code against Rubocop. And there's a couple of other things that run. But that is a quick fix for the issue in Rollbar, and we will get that pushed and resolved, and then merge the pull request, and then deploy the code, and then resolve the Rollbar issue, and mark the GitHub issue that it also created as closed as well. So those are the next 4 steps, but I'm not going to cover those here. I am going to say goodnight, and thanks for checking these out. I'm going to, hopefully if this setup has worked a little better, we're going to next week start to look at actually building some new stuff. So yeah, thanks for checking us out, and have a wonderful evening or day, depending on when you're watching this.